Hello and welcome to this lecture on an important issue. Today we're going to discuss and understand whether a drug use can cause a crime or the drug has no role in making a person criminal. So first of all, we need to understand that the drug use can cause a crime. Why? Because there are so many things that is related to the criminality caused by the use of the drugs, such as there are different gangs of drug dealers, and these gangs are involved in different criminal activities like murders. Why? Because money is involved, and wherever the money is involved, the criminals will work over there, and then uh, they can be responsible for different criminalities. So the main thing is that uh, the question whether the drug use can cause a crime. So my answer is yes, it can cause a crime, but it depends upon different factors. Number one, it also depends upon the laws of that area. We will discuss later on in our next slide. And then it also depends upon personality factors. And it also depends upon the type of criminality. So if we go to the next slide, we're talking about different factors that leads to crime. So first, when we talk about drug trafficking, yes, it is important. Why? The drug trafficking is involving to make money, and you know that wherever there is money, there will be gangs where people are making money just for trafficking illegal drugs, especially if you see the media, especially in America and Mexico. There are number of gangs that is responsible for drug trafficking and making money, but that money is illegal, and that illegal money has been used in to make the legal money. So it has been used to make legal money. By investing money in different legal platforms such as real estate. So you have to understand that the drugs has been used using drug trafficking by transferring the drug from one area to another area to make illegal money, and that illegal money is responsible for crimes such as uh, it can cause gang wars, and it can lead to use that illegal money to make a legal money, or in simple terms, I know there are some students from finance in my class. Money laundering is the exact term. So people use drugs to make that money, and that money, because it is illegal and it is not a part of the system, it has been used to launder money in different parts of the world, and then it will become the legal money. Like we all know the illegal money in different there are different tax haven areas where this illegal money has been used, and that illegal money has been then legalized. Sometimes the drug traffickers, they use money in gambling where they make the money legal. So you know, this all depend upon laws of that certain area, and that loss is responsible uh, to do different type of crimes. Let me give you one research article which is very interesting, and it's showing you some interesting fact that I want to share with you. Okay, I find an interesting article where we're talking about the title. If you see the drug trafficking, money laundering, and the business cycle, and they mentioning about uh, that does secular stagnation include in crime. Actually, this is a very big topic, and especially if you are a student from finance, you are interested to read this topic. I will not go to the explain the technical terms because I know there are some students from different background, but I just go through journal important points that I highlight, and I'm not going to explain in detail, but I'm just going to explain the important things that they find. So I highlighted these things that important thing from you, and we see one by one. First of all, what did they do? They discuss actually about the illegal markets, the money laundering, and the business cycle. Actually, they are discussing the relationship between these three factors: illegal markets, money laundering, and business cycle. When we talk about illegal markets, we are talking about the drug use and making that money to use it, and then that money has been used for money laundering, and that money has been used in the business cycle. That the finance student, they know what is business cycle. I just put the picture that in the business cycle, uh, there is an increase of the growth, then the business go to the peak, then that peak go to decline, and then increase. So there is a cycle of doing any business in the world. But when we talk about the relationship, there is a relationship between the money laundering, the money produced from the illegal market, and the business cycle. And that's actually they're talking about that model, and they're discussing in the abstract. If you see that orange highlight, and they mentioned that illegal markets grow at variable rates depending on the health of the legal economy. Yes, we know that the legal economy is very important, because the legal economy, if it is good, then the illegal market slow down. But if the legal market or economy is not good, then illegal market will grow. And there are many ways to do illegal markets, like tell you one thing, that drug is one of the example, then target killing is one of the example, then any material that is illegal, people smuggle them and to make the money, that's very commonly used. So they mentioned these things inside the that article, and they also talking about that business cycle affect the legal market, which criminal operates to launder their revenue. That is actually important, because I already mentioned in the last slide that money that people make from illegal drug trafficking, that has been used in the legal market, and then it has been used in the legal market, and then it affect the business cycle. That is very important, that you have to understand. I am not going to explain the detail, but this point is very important. However, but it is goes without doubt that drug market continues to be one of the most profitable areas for organizing crimes, and it is estimated that every year European Union citizen alone spend the range of around 21 to 31 billion pounds to buy illicit drugs. So that is very important point, that it is even in the European countries, in the EU citizens are spending money for these organized crime and making money around 21 to 31 billions of pounds, which is a huge amount. This is another important point. They mentioned that their work is to evaluate the relationship between illegal revenues, ML stand for money laundering, and the legal assets held by the drug criminal sectors. So again, this is they are all talking about that the criminals that are making money and then they using to buy legal assets, such as the property is very important. People buy properties from the illegal money and then they make the money, and we can call it as white money. They convert their black money into the white money. So they discuss this relationship. The first thing, they evaluate actually the period around 1998 to 2008. They evaluate the retail income of each kind of drugs in the period of 1998 to 2008. And then they found that if you see, cocaine, opiates, and cannabis is among on the top of these products that they make the retail income in the US dollars they mentioned. The main thing that actually these tables or graph, they are showing you that with the passage of time, and they mentioned with comparison with cannabis and then different kind of drugs, ATS and ecstasy, and they found a similar pattern that in 1998 to 2002 to 2004, around 2004, the retail income has been rise, but since then to after 2004 to 2008, it is in the decline. So it means that the asset or the money has been generated from illegal uh, drugs has on the decline. And why it is on the decline? Because is of the rules and regulations by the government that has been made. Now money laundering is not an easy to do. The laws are stricter, the transfer of money through bank has been more preferred. So the money laundering, and then the laws has been made by a different organization like FATF, Financial Task Force Act. If you know this, they make very strict laws to avoid money laundering, and many anti money laundering rules and regulations have been made. So what happened that with the improvement of the laws, or with an increase of the anti money laundering rules and regulations, there is a decline of the illegal money created or made by the drugs. And that is very important factor, because we know that the use of illegal money is actually responsible to make the legal money, which at the end going inside to the system. So what happened with the decrease of the money laundering? That money that has not been going to the system, and then the illegal money is going to decline, and then it is affecting the system. So that's actually they're talking about this paper. Again, I'm not going to the technical aspects. And if we see the conclusion, I'm going to discuss the main conclusions, the main things that we're going to discuss. Number one, the main important thing is that this is the important. We found that the legal capital accumulated by organized crime show a decline. And why this happened? Because obviously the illegal economy is going to decline, and that affecting the legal capital, which is also going to decline. That maybe we can legalize the drug markets. Means in other terms, they're talking about the use of marijuana or cocaine or morphine. They are giving a direction that because of declining trend of illegal market and it affecting the economy, we can legalize the drug market. And they mentioned that, but the question is that we need to understand, this is a paper they are talking about. But if I'm a teacher, and when we talk about the morality, whether it is good, if we talk about the morality, and this is my question from you, from to the listeners, that whether is this, when we talk about morals, whether we need to make the drug market legalized. Because, for example, if we make the drug market legal, then what happen? Then what happened? That's a question mark, because if the it make legal, then maybe it could have the other consequence, where maybe the people that are making money, they move to make the money not from making drugs, because we make it legal, they use from other illegal sectors that, as already they mentioned, that maybe this leads to the change of the behavior of the criminal, and then they go to the other illegal sector. But my question is that why a person is going to go for the illegal sector? That's very strange. That human behavior is very complex. Again, this is a very complex question, that if we legalized the drug market, but then why they go to make money from other illegal sector? Why don't they go for the legal way? The answer is very complex, but there is one reason behind that. Sometimes it is because of the human nature that is responsible to make money from illegal factors. Sometimes we call it as fashion. Okay, we go to that point and we found that they mentioned the fourth and final sense in which a drug use can cause crime is that illicit drug use is a crime. And this is actually the last part of this topic and this section, but it is very important link. And I'm not going to see the more detail. They mentioned that there are more than 1.5 million arrests for drug law violation every year, and they're talking about the US laws and regulation, and that how many people that they are violating the laws, and they are arresting, and more than 1.5 arrest. But the interesting thing is that why they do crime, they're talking about, and I mentioned and highlighted, is some of the people who are actively trying to impress others by living dangerously and committing criminal acts might drawn to illegal drugs and use an obvious way to demonstrate that alienation is from society. So then what is meant by this? It means that people are committing crime. Why? Just because of the fashion. People are inspired from the media sometime, or they want to act dangerously to inspire the other people. So you can see that how human nature is very complex, that people are committing crime just for the fashion, just from taking inspiration from the media, and that is responsible for committing the crime. So you can see that when I talking about that research article, if people, if even we make drugs legalized, by legalizing marijuana or cocaine or heroin, people still do illegal activities, either because of the inspiration, or again the money. I already discussed that money laundering and people making illegal money, and then the illegal money making easy for them to make it. And then even still, if we legalize the drugs, they still want to make money, and they use other mediums to make the illegal money. So again, we go back to the slide, and we are discussing about that why people become criminal, and we discuss one point, because of the money is involving, and they using that money in illegal money to make the legal money. And I discussed in detail. Then it, because of the other reason, is the deviant behavior. We already discussed that human being have sometimes they have deviant behavior, and we discussed the definition in our first lecture, which mean that is not normal behavior, is against the social norms. And then when we talk about this, we need to understand that deviant behavior is also responsible for the criminal who use that drugs, and then responsible for criminal activities. So it is very complex thing that whether the drug use is responsible for criminal activity or the deviant behavior. That's the important question we need to address, because the research is conducted on the different drugs, and then researchers found that even different drugs like heroin and cocaine, the extensive use of that drug is responsible for uh, impulsive behaviors on the human being, that is responsible for criminal activities. And actually they also explain this in terms of different movies. I'm going to show you one movie that is mentioned in the textbook as well. Okay, this is the movie Refer Madness that already mentioned in the textbook as well, and you showing in the Wikipedia. They also showing you about the Wikipedia, and they also about this is also about the use of marijuana, and the film is talking about that the use of marijuana is actually a real enemy and soul destroying, and they're talking about that the use of marijuana can lead to emotional disturbance, inability to thought, loss of power to resist physical emotions, and finally leading to shocking violence. So you can see even in the movies they are talking about the use of marijuana and their effect on the human. So you have to understand that why I'm discussing this thing, that the drug have an impact on the human, and because of it is a chemical, and that chemical is producing that effect. So this is very very important thing. And then the second thing is that the deviant behavior, the deviant behavior is also responsible for a person that are involved in drugs. So there are two ways. It could be because of the drug as well, or sometimes if a person having a deviant behavior, he is also responsible to start with these drugs, and which again will later on become more and more severe with the passage of time. So I suggest, and or I think that both are responsible for these behavior or activities. Then the antisocial behavior is also responsible, like impulsive behavior or compulsive obsessive disorders are also responsible for these behaviors and these activities. Then stimulants like amphetamines or cocaine, if you take them, they're also responsible for making you jumpy or paranoid. So it is very important. In the textbook, when you read a textbook, they also mention that a study in the US, they found that the homicide level every year is around 5%, is only because of the drug issues. Many studies also indicate that the alcohol is clearly linked to the violent crime, and it is responsible for sexual assaults. Then the problem is that the statistics also showing you that at the time of offense, many offenders are actually are involved in drinking alcohol or under the influence of alcohol. So you have to understand, and the statistics they found that 25% of the assaults are linked to the use of alcohol. But but there is still a debate is going on, because they, in the society they also found that some of the sexual assault or some of the assaults are not related to the drinking alcohol, where the use of alcohol is minimum. Then why this sexual assault has happened? Then it could be occurred because not of the drug, but because of their behavior, because of their impulsive behavior, antisocial behavior, or other behavior that is responsible for these activities. So this is all about for today's lecture. Thank you so much.